Regular verbs, present tense. Hello and welcome. Today we're going to take a big step forward in your Spanish learning journey. So far you've learned important verbs like ser, estar, tener, ir, and venir. Good job. Now it's time to unlock a powerful new tool, regular verbs in the present tense. In this lesson, you'll learn how to talk about everyday actions like eating, walking, working, and studying, using verbs that follow simple, predictable patterns. We'll look into verbs that end in AR, ER, and IR. And you'll see how the endings change depending on who's doing the action. Yo, tú, él, nosotros, and so on. Don't worry, it's easier than it sounds. And once you understand the patterns, you'll be able to use dozens of new verbs with confidence. Let's get started. All regular verb infinites in Spanish end in AR, ER, or IR. For example, trabajar ends in AR, comer ends in ER, and dormir ends in IR. When we conjugate verbs, the stem of the verb stays the same, and the ending changes depending on who is doing the action. That is, which subject pronoun we are using. For example, with the verb trabajar, if I'm doing the action, yo trabajo, I work. If you are doing the action, tú trabajas, you work. So the ending of the verb changes based on the subject. This is called conjugating the verb. All regular verbs that end in AR, like trabajar or caminar, share one set of endings. Regular verbs that end in ER, like comer and beber, follow a different set. And regular verbs that end in IR, like vivir and escribir, have their own patterns, which are very similar to the ER verbs. Let's take a look at some verbs one by one. Trabajar, to work. Yo trabajo, I work. Tú trabajas, you work. Usted trabaja, you work formal. Él or ella trabaja, he or she works. Ellos or ellas trabajan, they work. Ustedes trabajan, you all work. Nosotros or nosotras trabajamos, we work. Estudiar, to study. Yo estudio, I study. Tú estudias, you study. Usted estudia, you study, formal. Él or ella estudia, he or she studies. Ellos or ellas estudian, they study. Ustedes estudian, you all study. Nosotros or nosotras estudiamos, we study. Caminar, to walk. Yo camino, I walk. Tú caminas, you walk. Usted camina, you walk formal. Él or ella camina, he or she walks. Ellos or ellas caminan, they walk. Ustedes caminan, you all walk. Nosotros or nosotras caminamos, we walk. Comprar, to buy. Yo compro, I buy. Tú compras, you buy. Usted compra, you buy formal. Él or ella compra, he or she buys. Ellos or ellas compran, they buy. Ustedes compran, you all buy. Nosotros or nosotras compramos. We buy. Yo trabajo en el centro comercial. I work in the shopping center. Tú estudias en la biblioteca. You study at the library. Ellos caminan en el parque. They walk in the park. Nosotros compramos en el supermercado. This could mean we shop at the supermarket or we buy things in the supermarket. Comer, to eat. Yo como, I eat. Tú comes, you eat. Usted come, you eat formal. Él or ella come, he or she eats. Ellos or ellas comen, they eat. Ustedes comen, you all eat. Nosotros or nosotras comemos, we eat. Beber, to drink. Yo bebo, I drink. Tú bebes, you drink. Usted bebe, you drink formal. Él or ella bebe, he or she drinks. Ellos or ellas beben, they drink. Ustedes beben, you all drink. Nosotros or nosotras bebemos, we drink. Correr, to run. Yo corro, I run. Tú corres, you run. Usted corre, you run formal. Él or ella corre, he or she runs. Ellos or ellas corren, they run. Ustedes corren, you all run. Nosotros or nosotras corremos, we run. Vender, to sell. Yo vendo, I sell. Tú vendes, you sell. Usted vende, you sell formal. Él or ella vende, he or she sells. Ellos or ellas venden, they sell. Ustedes venden, you all sell. Nosotros or nosotras vendemos, we sell. Carlos come en el restaurante. Carlos eats at the restaurant. Él bebe agua en su casa. He drinks water in his house. Ustedes corren en el parque. You all run at the park, or you all run in the park. Nosotros vendemos en el mercado. We sell in the market. Vivir, to live. Yo vivo, I live. Tú vives, you live. Usted vive, you live formal. Él or ella vive, he or she lives. Ellos or ellas viven, they live. Ustedes viven, you all live. Nosotros or nosotras vivimos, we live. Recibir, to receive. Yo recibo, I receive. Tú recibes, you receive. Usted recibe, you receive formal. Él or ella recibe, he or she receives. Ellos or ellas reciben. They receive. Ustedes reciben. You all receive. Nosotros or nosotras recibimos. We receive. Escribir. To write. Yo escribo. I write. Tú escribes. You write. Usted escribe. You write. Formal. Él or ella escribe. He or she writes. Ellos or ellas escriben. They write. Ustedes escriben. You all write. Nosotros or nosotras escribimos. We write. Yo vivo en Canadá. I live in Canada. Tú recibes cartas. You receive letters. Carol escribe con su lápiz. Carol writes with her pencil. Well done! In this lesson, we learned how regular verbs in Spanish follow predictable patterns, depending on whether they end in AR, ER, or IR. We looked at some examples from each group and saw how their endings change depending on the subject. Once you learn the pattern, you can apply it to hundreds of verbs and start building real sentences with confidence. Keep practicing, and soon it'll feel natural. In the next lesson, we'll continue expanding your skills, so stay consistent and keep leveling up your Spanish. See you in the next lesson.